St. Joseph Day, March 19th, a tradition deep-rooted in Sicily, brought here by our ancestors, celebrated in a very big way in Gloucester, Massachusetts. We have many families here that still have altars in their homes. It's been something they've been celebrating through the generations. Today we're going to show you how to fix the gonza, and by request people are asking, the pasta is made with a semolina flour. You can make pasta with regular white flour, but this particular pasta is used semolina flour. Some families use eggs, some families don't. My family in particular, we do not use eggs. So for the gonza, it's a very easy dish to prepare. You start out with some dried fava beans that need to be soaked overnight. When you soak them overnight, they'll kind of puff up just a little bit like you see here. They're still hard to the touch, but they're much softer, after being soaked. So you're going to soak them just in a pan of water for 24 hours. We have canned chickpeas, and I like to include the water that is in the jar. Some people buy dried chickpeas, and they soak those also overnight in water. I prefer to use canned ones because I like the juice that's in the can. It gives the gonza a little extra flavor. You need some fennel frond from anise bulb. The leaves we're going to use, you're not going to use the bottom, but there is a delicious salad we prepare on this day also that you can use the bulbs, but that's a different recipe. You need some cauliflower. I use chicken broth, salt, pepper, and olive oil. It's so simple to make. The hardest part is if you buy dried fava beans that still have the skin on it. It is a family production, and it will take you a couple of hours to peel the beans, but it's well worth it. These actually, they're very hard to find, but these are already peeled, so all you have to do is soak them. So if you can find them like this, buy them. It saves you hours of time. I usually make this in very large quantities, so today I'm going to try to whittle it down for you to make a reasonable amount, not a massive amount. So here I have 4 heads of cauliflower, and all you're going to do is cut the greens off, cut them into big pieces. You really don't need to cut them too small because as the gonza cooks, it'll cook down a lot. I mean, this will be half the size. In here I have 6 cups of dried fava beans, which were soaked overnight, boiled in water, and they boil for about 20 minutes to a half hour. They still have a little texture to them. They're not like super mushy, you can feel it. You don't want to overcook these, so 20 minutes is more than enough time. You drain it and set those aside. Okay, so when you're fixing the gonza, families will tell you there's always somebody in charge of the gonza. And throughout the day, people will be passing by the pot and they will be seasoning it to their taste. So when I give you these measurements, they're not exact, it's an art. You taste as you go, and I guarantee you it'll end up being delicious. This is a guide, okay? So you're gonna put enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. I would say at least a cup to a cup and a half of very good olive oil in the bottom of the pan. Then you're going to place your cut cauliflower right into it. And you're gonna put this over a high heat, and you're gonna saute this. We say soffritti. You're gonna toss it, season it with some salt and pepper. Let's say we're gonna soffritti it for 3 to 4 minutes, okay? You just wanna start to cook it down a little bit before we start adding the other ingredients. So I'm gonna take this over to the cooktop, put it over a high heat, and we're gonna soffritti for a couple of minutes. So here we have our cauliflower and olive oil over a high heat, and we're gonna saute this for 3 to 4 minutes. And just keep tossing it, turning it around. You want the ones on the bottom. You're not trying to brown it, so you really need to keep moving them around the pan. About 2 minutes into it, we're just going to season it with a little bit of salt. And when I season, I always tell people, cover the top layer. That's like the best guide, like tablespoon, teaspoon, doesn't matter. Because when you're cooking this, seriously, it's like an art. There's no exact, I can't give you an exact amount. You get a taste as you go. So we're gonna start off, and we're just gonna sprinkle approximately a teaspoon across the top. I use kosher salt always when I'm cooking. I never use regular table salt. And then again, we're gonna cover the top of the pan with fresh ground pepper. Having a pepper mill in your kitchen, everybody needs to have a pepper mill. But just fresh ground pepper, there's a difference, you can taste it. When you go to a fine restaurant, that's what they're cooking in the kitchen. They're going to grind the pepper. So I'm going to show you here. We've covered the top of the pan with pepper, and later on we're going to season this again. So this is just our first step of seasoning. I'll show you here. This is what we need to look for, okay? And again, we're going to really get that cauliflower tossed. You'll be amazed. This looks like a lot of cauliflower. It really is not. In our family, this was my Uncle Mike's job. My Aunt Vincy and my Uncle Mike Militello had an altar in their home for over 40 years. And his job was to fix the gonza. Nobody ever touched it in our family because he would kill you. But luckily, growing up, I kept a close eye on that stove and watched him year after year. I've made some changes. He used water, I used chicken broth, but the family has tasted it and I've got their stamp of approval, so I know he'll be proud. So after sauteing for about 4 or 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, it depends on how much cauliflower you have in your pan and how hot your cooktop gets. I have an industrial cooktop, so this cooks a little faster than a normal stove. You're going to add chicken broth. Now, some families do, they add water and that's fine. I really love the flavor of the chicken broth. And we make a mess. And it's okay, because it's St. Joseph's Day. So in here, we've added 3 48-ounce cans of chicken stock. I just buy canned chicken stock. If you have homemade, that's fine. Just use the same equivalents for the amounts. Don't use low sodium, just use the straight, good, best quality chicken stock that you can buy. So you're really using a guide. So say you use more than the cauliflower, you're making a larger amount. At this stage, what's the important thing is that you're covering the cauliflower with the chicken stock. You want it totally covered in the top. So here, as you can see, I need to add 1 more 48-ounce can so that all my cauliflower is completely submerged in cooking inside the chicken stock. Everything is floating and looking good. Just going to give it a stir around. And this is the easy part now. We just add all our beans that have already been prepared. You're going to add your chickpeas along with their juices if you're using canned. If not, you might want to adjust the water. If you're using the dried ones, you might want to add, 2 or 3 cups of water for each 2 cups of dried beans. That's about the equivalent. That's what I would do. Let's put it that way. Some families might do it different. It's okay. Here's your cooked fava beans. You're going to add your fava beans. Again, we're going to give it a stir. And this cooks over a medium-high heat all day. We usually make this early in the morning on St. Joseph's Day. So start early in the morning. By 11 o'clock, the gonza is really ready to be served, waiting for the delicious homemade pasta. So here we have our the anise bulb. This is really what we're looking for. You need the greens. None of the hard celery-like stalks will be going into the pasta. It's just this very lacy, frondy anise leaf that we want. I like to use about 2 to 3 cups of the anise. You just cut it, you can break it with your hands. So then we're just going to chop it up. You want to chop it up fine. So you start out with approximately 2 to 3 cups. But when you chop it up, it gets a lot less. So this is what we're looking for. And for the amount of gonza that I'm preparing today, this would be the right amount. It's approximately 1 cup once it's all chopped up. So we're just going to add this to the pan. So before we let our gonza rest and just cook for a few hours on the stove, we do our final seasoning. You're gonna sprinkle some salt on the top, fresh ground pepper, drizzle some olive oil, and my last secret, my Uncle Mike never did this, but I use 8 chicken bouillon cubes and add that right to your gonza. Give it a stir and just let it simmer for a few hours.